I'm going to start throwing out some numbers, and it's going to get just like crazy real quick to the point where it's like, what are we even doing with ourselves at this moment? It is estimated that there's somewhere around 86 billion neurons inside of your brain. Now, 16 billion of those are on the surface, and then the other, 70 billion are going to be in various other structures, but that is all inside of just your brain. Now, other estimates put that synapses, that's the connection point between two or more neurons, is somewhere around, this is where it's just not going to make any sense, somewhere between 100 and 500 trillion synapses. Those numbers don't make sense. I don't know what to do with that, but what it tells me is that you, me, humans, we are just complicated. Now, before we can really dive into that, and before we could really understand what all that means, it's probably best that we just take a step back and just kind of introduce ourselves to neurons to begin with. What are they? Where do we find them? That type of thing, because there's going to be different types of neurons. Not all of them are the same. Now, to do this, we are going to be using one of Ken Hub's brand new physiology study units. We just launched this and we are super excited. This is part of our brand new physiology section. Now, this is a premium feature, but we're in a giving mood. And to celebrate, we've gone ahead and left a link down the description below to a separate but equally amazing study unit on reflex arcs. If you've ever been to the doctor and they hit your knee with that little mallet and your knee kicks, we explain what's going on down in the description below with this free physiology study unit. But for now, what I want to do is we're just going to dive into this image here, and we can see that there are 5 different types of neurons. And so we're going to go through these one by one, give you some basic understanding of what they are, where you find them, and those types of things. And I always like to start with this one down here, which we call a multipolar neuron. Now, to really understand what we mean by multiple poles, right, you just have to think about it very basically, right? Like you think of like a pole as being an extension, right? So first off, you see these branches that are coming off of this thing right here, right? This is what's called the cell body. The cell body is where you find the nucleus of the neuron, as well as all the different organelles. So you've probably heard of, like, say, endoplasmic reticulum, or, the Golgi complex, or, mitochondria, those types of things. Those are all going to be located inside of the cell body, also sometimes called the soma. And branching off of it are what are called dendrites. Now, we're going to come back to what a dendrite is, but just for the sake of kind of explaining what I mean by multipolar, you could think of each of these extensions as being a pole. All right, and then we're also going to see that there's this long one that's coming out of it called an axon. And that you can also think of as a pole. So when you put it all together, it just makes kind of sense that this would be called a multipolar. And so to just kind of really dive into that, let's go up to this one here. So then you probably have some kind of intuition as to why on earth we call this a bipolar neuron, because here again we have our cell body. It still has a nucleus, it still has organelles, but now we see 2 extensions coming off of it, so therefore we call this a bipolar neuron. And then again, to just make sure we're all on the exact same page, you come over to this one and you can see this one is called unipolar, right? Uni meaning 1, bi meaning 2, and we can see that here is our cell body, and then there is just this one extension coming off. Now, granted, it's going to split and there's nuance to all of this, but I think you have an understanding as to why we're calling these multipolar, bipolar, unipolar. And we're going to see up here, we have a faker, the pseudounipolar. We're on to you. And then you have this one that's just does what it wants. It's called an Anaxonic. We'll get to these in a second, but I just wanted to make sure you understand what we meant by multipolar. Now, again, so going back, we have the cell body, which again has the nucleus. Nucleus has like DNA and everything that is going to be required for just that cell to operate properly. And then you have these dendrites. Now, dendrites are just going to be these things that branch. And what's going to happen is this is where a signal is basically going to come into the neuron. So what's going to happen is you can think of a neuron as being almost like a one-way street. Right? Information is going to go one direction and one direction only, right? You don't want it to go the opposite direction. And so that means the dendrites, which are in this case branching off of this cell body here, and there's multiples of them, what they're going to be doing is just bringing information, right? The signal towards that cell body. Now, there can be a lot of dendrites, right? Like, this is a very simplified image because our illustrators couldn't do it for real. Like this, there could be thousands of these dendrites all coming off of a singular neuron. But what's important to understand is that they are going to be connected to what's called the axon of a separate neuron. So you see, we can have multiple dendrites, but we're still only ever going to have one axon, and that is just the way it's going to work. So basically you have all these different signals that can come in here, and then that is going to go through the cell body, and then if an action potential is happening, which we have separate videos on action potentials, well, then it's going to send that signal down the axon until it gets to what are called the axon terminals. My point here is you can have a bunch of dendrites, but you're only ever going to have one axon, and it's going to go this one direction, just like so. Now, and then again, the axon is what is going to connect to a dendrite of another neuron. Now, again, that's not always. There are definitely exceptions all over the body. I'm just trying to say, just understand that dendrites and axons are really good at connecting to one another. Now, and that connection is a synapse. So when I said there were between 100 and 500 trillion synapses, I mean, again, what are we doing with ourselves? That's just a number that doesn't make sense. What we're saying here is that is where we have 100 to 500 trillion connections between dendrites and axons, and that's inside of the human brain. Okay, so this is what we call a multipolar neuron. Now, if we go back up to bipolar, and then this is going to make a lot of sense now that we've kind of broken that down. You can see that we have one dendrite. Now, this whole thing is a dendrite. Now, the dendrite can branch. You have this primary part of the dendrite, you have a secondary, then you have these things called tertiary branches, and it basically, it's just going to keep on branching, but this is still one dendrite. And then we have our cell body, and then we have our axon. Now, to explain where bipolar neurons are, it'll help us to also explain where we find multipolar neurons, because bipolar neurons, they're going to be in places where you require high fidelity, right? Fidelity, you could think of exactness, right? Things need to be extremely specific. So let me give you a few examples. You're going to find bipolar neurons inside of the eyes, or for the ears, right? For taste, right? We call these actually special senses. Special senses require exactness. Can you imagine if every time you bit into an apple, it tasted different? Even if it was the same apple, literally this bite is different than this bite. That is a world that is devoid of meaning, right? Everything is more or less random, or there's way too much, there's a lack of fidelity to the point where things just don't, it's difficult to understand what the point of anything is. So some things absolutely require a large amount of fidelity, and that's exactly where you have bipolar neurons. Now, multipolar neurons, these are going to be processing neurons. These are there for basically the bipolar neurons, or eventually. They don't necessarily directly connect to multipolar neurons, although there are examples. But my point here is the bipolar neurons are going to try to send that signal and eventually make it to multipolar neurons, because since they have so many dendrites, these are going to be really good at processing lots of information. So to give you an example of what's going on, right now you're watching me on your cell phone, I imagine, and what's happening is bipolar neurons are, among other cells, sending information through the optic nerve, and then it's getting to your cerebral cortex and your visual cortices back in the occipital lobe, and back there you're going to find a whole lot of multipolar neurons that are going to process that information. It's going to refine it, make sure everything looks good, and hopefully I'm looking good, and that is exactly what is happening. So the bipolar neurons are trying to get the information eventually, there's a whole lot of steps in between, but eventually to the multipolar neurons to be able to put it all together. So I think that's a really good example of, or just a better way to understand it. Now, to understand what's going on with the pseudounipolar, we actually want to jump over to unipolar first, because unipolar neurons are so rare in the body, it kind of depends on the text you're looking at. Some texts just say that they don't exist in the human body, or at least in an adult or fully developed human body, where others will say, okay, you might get some leftovers here or there, some holdouts that are just, holding out, because they do exist during embryological development. Right? Unipolar neurons for human beings are going to be, and not just human beings, actually, this is going to be true for vertebrates. Right? Vertebrates are those that have a vertebral column, or your back. These unipolar neurons are there during development, right? We're talking in utero development as you're going through embryological to fetal development. But what happens is they then just kind of start transitioning into pseudo-unipolar and just even degenerating and going away. So the point here is Unipolar neurons are not really relevant to us as human beings, right? We want to show you that they exist. You might find some if you started poking and prodding in different parts of the body, but at the same time, it's like, we really don't want to consider it. But still, again, look, we have our cell body, we have our axon, and then we have these dendritic portions that are going to be coming off of it. So I think that's going to be good for now. And so then we come over to pseudo-unipolar. So pseudo, I said earlier, this is a faker. What makes this a faker? It's because pseudo means false. Well, as you can see right here, you can see we have it labeled as a neuronal process. So basically we have our cell body, you have this neuronal process, and then what it does is it bifurcates. This is technically one giant axon, right? To make things just as simple as possible, we've gone ahead and labeled this as a dendrite because this actually can have incoming information going to it. And that's what dendrites are for. Remember, dendrites are incoming information, axons are outgoing information. This is built like an axon, though. So this is kind of like it's an axon that receives information, and that can kind of be confusing to people. So thinking about it as a dendrite is also very useful. My point here is we have what are called central and peripheral processes. We're not going to get into the exact nuances here, but just understand it bifurcates. So we still have like this one neuronal process, and we have the cell body. So it's like, hey, you're a unipolar, but then it splits in this way that we just decided to label it, or someone decided to label it as a pseudo-unipolar, and that is just what it's going to be called. Now, this is very common in the human body. This is another type of sensory neuron. So the bipolar neuron, if you remember me saying, this was for special senses. A pseudo-unipolar is going to be for like tactile type of senses. And like, so you're going to find this, these are, let's just give an example. It's like touch, right? Like as I'm going like this and just going up and down my arm, well, what's happening is that information is going to be getting sensed by pseudo-unipolar neurons, and then that's going to be traveling up through the nerve, and it's going to be then making a synapse with multipolar neurons inside of my spinal cord going up into my brain. My point is, this is for like sensing things on the, taking external information in like your integumentary system a lot of the time, right? So pseudo-unipolar neurons are very, very common. You're going to see them all over the place. In fact, I usually just tell my students, these are the three you really need to worry about, is the multipolar, bipolar, and pseudo-unipolar. For most courses of like anatomy and physiology or just physiology, that's really what you're focused on. Now, again, because unipolar, we just don't really find all that much. But anaxonic is also kind of rare in terms of quantity. So the reason why we call this an anaxonic is because anytime you put an an in front of something or an a, it negates it. And this is telling you it doesn't have an axon, or in reality, it does have an axon more than likely, you just can't find it. I mean, imagine this thing. I've always thought of this kind of like a thorn bush. Like, there's just so much going on. Like, yeah, there's going to be roots and all this kind of stuff, but at the same time, it's like, it's busy. It's a very busy area. And so the axon looks so similar to the dendrites that they just decided to name this anaxonic. Now, anaxonic neurons are typically going to be what's called an interneuron. Multipolar neurons are also examples, or can be at times, of what's called an interneuron. All that basically means is they're located between other neurons, right? Inter literally means between. So anaxonic neurons are there to help kind of like, they're like, again, it's like a dense bush of just all these different extensions coming off of them, and they can connect to many different neurons. But you're going to find them in places like the eye. That's a real easy example of like where you'd find anaxonic neurons, and they are, again, interneurons. Basically, you could think of them as just an intermediary as signals are being kind of like thrown around all over the place. But again, the ones that you really want to be focusing on are mostly, for most programs, going to be these ones, right? So multipolar, bipolar, and pseudo-unipolar. But regardless, these are the five, and you can start to understand just how complex this is actually getting. Like, this is as basic as I can make it. In fact, if you want to, I mean, again, check out this study unit, because if you look at this video here, I'm just gonna do this real quick. In fact, I have to mute this so it doesn't be too loud for us. I mean, I just want to show you real quick. I'm gonna hit this. The level of just specificity we have inside of the videos. This is something that we are all so proud of here at KenHub. Our Illustrator team, is doing such a fantastic job with all of these videos. Just kind of breaking it down. But I mean, like, there is so much to go into, and this video and this particular study unit is just scratching the surface of the surface. We have plenty more of these coming down the pipeline, so you've got to be checking back for more of our physiology sections or study units that are going to be coming down. But my hope is that, I mean, I'm actually going to push pause here. My hope is that this video helped you, that you have some better understanding of what's actually going on with neurons, the different types of neurons. If you did find this video valuable, please go ahead, hit that like button. Little things like that actually go a long way. And while you're down there, go ahead and leave us a comment. Let us know what you thought of the video, what you think of other videos, what you want us to discuss in future videos, or you just tell us what you had for lunch today. That works too, you know. I enjoy talking about food, so hopefully you had something good. I haven't eaten yet, so I should probably do that. But anyways, thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate it as always, and I will see you next time.